The first thing I remember is the sound. A grinding, metal-on-metal scream that I hadn't heard since my Air Force days. That sound doesn't ask questions. It tells you time just got expensive. Red lights started flashing near the cockpit. Smoke began leaking into the back, thin at first, then thick enough to burn my throat. Tom Keller, our pilot, yelled through the cabin, "Everyone who can safely exit, get ready now." There were 7 of us in the jump compartment. Everyone had a rig. Everyone except Dylan Reed. Ben Alvarez had already grabbed the reserve handle on Dylan's rental rig and inspected it twice. His face had gone pale. "No," he shouted. "He does not jump this rig. The reserve pin is not secure. Do not put him out on this." Dylan was 20 years old. Old enough to sign his own waiver, old enough to know exactly what that red tag meant. And old enough to understand whose parachute Rachel was taking. My daughter's. Sophie stared at her mother for 1 second. In that moment, she didn't look like the college student who'd argued with me about rent. She looked like the little girl who used to wait at the front window whenever Rachel came home from deployment. "Mom." That one word nearly broke me. Rachel pulled one shoulder strap free. I caught her wrist. "No." She finally looked at me. I had known Rachel Mercer for 17 years. I had watched her stay calm while everyone else panicked. But there was no confusion in her face now. None at all. "Daniel, stop," she snapped. "Dylan has no usable rig." "Then give him yours." Her expression changed just slightly. "I saw it. I can get him out safely," she said. "And Sophie? She has you." The aircraft dropped. Someone screamed. Sophie grabbed an overhead strap as bags and loose equipment slid across the floor. Ben yelled we were passing through 11,000 feet. Tom shouted something about rising temperature and losing oil pressure. Rachel turned back to Sophie. Then she finished removing the rig. My daughter didn't offer it. She didn't volunteer. She didn't make some heroic decision to save Dylan Reed. Her mother took it from her. Rachel pushed the rig into Dylan's hands. "Put it on." He stared at Sophie for half a second. I thought he might refuse. He didn't. Rachel helped him into the harness. And that's when something inside me went completely still. Not calm. Not forgiveness. Something colder. Understanding. For almost 14 years, I had explained Rachel to other people. She missed Sophie's birthday because the mission changed. She forgot our anniversary because the squadron needed her. She canceled Christmas leave because one of her pilots had a family emergency. She took Owen Reed's calls during dinner because he was her executive assistant and apparently nothing in his life could wait until morning. I had explained everything. I had explained her to Sophie. I had even explained her to myself. There was nothing left to explain now. Rachel had made the explanation for me. Dylan needs it more. Sophie has you. I reached for the release on my own rig. Sophie saw what I was doing. "No, Dad. Turn around." "No, Sophie." Her eyes filled. I tightened my voice. "Turn around." She did. I removed my rig and put it over her shoulders. It was larger than hers, but adjustable. I pulled the chest strap tight, then the leg straps. Then I checked everything again. Ben moved beside me and inspected the fit. His eyes met mine. He knew what it meant. If Sophie left wearing my rig, I stayed behind. "Daniel," Rachel said. I didn't look at her. I checked Sophie's reserve handle, then put both hands on my daughter's shoulders. "You listen to Ben. You do exactly what he says. Do not wait for me." Her lips trembled. "What about you? Tom is still flying the airplane." That was all I said. Because the truth was simpler. Somebody had to stay. Rachel had already decided it wouldn't be her. Ben moved Sophie toward the door. Rachel was helping Dylan ahead of her. When the green light came on, Dylan went first. Rachel followed him seconds later. She never looked back at me. Sophie did. Her face disappeared through the open door. Then there was nothing but wind, smoke, and the violent vibration of a dying aircraft. Ben stayed because he was crew. I stayed because I no longer had a parachute. Tom stayed because somebody had to put the airplane on the ground. We landed 6 minutes later. It felt like 60. The right landing gear partially collapsed. The aircraft spun off the runway and tore through a line of marker lights before stopping in dirt and dry grass. My forehead hit something hard. For a few seconds, I could hear nothing except a high ringing sound. Then Tom yelled, "Move!" We got out. Emergency vehicles were already racing toward us. My left arm was bleeding. My ribs hurt every time I breathed. I didn't care. I wanted Sophie. They found the jumpers less than 2 miles away. By the time a medic drove me to the recovery area, Sophie was sitting beneath an orange canopy with a blanket around her shoulders. Alive. I crossed the field so fast the medic had to grab my arm to keep me from falling. Sophie stood. I pulled her against me. She didn't cry. Not until she whispered, "Dad, she took it from me." I know. She actually took it. I know. Over Sophie's shoulder, I saw Rachel. She was 30 yards away. Beside Dylan, Owen Reed had arrived. He had both hands on his son's shoulders. Rachel stood close enough that Owen's arm rested around her back. Then he pulled her toward him. Not the professional half-hug of two co-workers after a bad day. His hand went behind her neck. Rachel leaned into him. I watched for perhaps 2 seconds. That was enough. Rachel finally noticed us. She stepped away from Owen and started walking across the field. "Daniel." I said nothing. "Sophie." She reached toward our daughter. "Honey, I need you to understand." I had seconds. Dylan's equipment was compromised. I knew your father would figure something out. Sophie stepped behind me. Rachel stopped. "You knew Dad would figure something out?" Sophie asked. Rachel's face tightened. "That is not what I meant." "It is exactly what you said." Owen approached from behind her. "Everyone is shaken up," he said. "Maybe this conversation should happen after." I looked at him. "Do not speak to my daughter." He stopped. Rachel's expression hardened immediately. "Daniel." Owen's son almost died. I looked down at my bleeding arm, then at Sophie, then back at my wife. "So did yours." Silence for years. That would have been the moment when I demanded an answer. Why him? Why Dylan? Why was Owen always the emergency? Why were Sophie and I always expected to understand? I asked none of it. Instead, I looked toward the damaged aircraft. A small fixed camera was mounted near the rear bulkhead. Its red indicator light was still flashing. I knew that camera. The drop zone used it for training review and incident analysis. I took out my phone. "Ben." He looked at me. "I need the aircraft footage preserved. Cabin video, intercom, manifest, equipment checkout, everything from this load." Rachel stared at me. "Daniel." I continued. "And please document the request now in writing." Ben nodded slowly. "I will." Owen's face changed first. That interested me. Rachel stepped closer. "Why are you doing this?" I looked at the woman I had been married to for 14 years. Then I took off my wedding ring. I placed it in her hand. "I am not doing anything to you." Her fingers closed around the ring. "I am just not protecting you from what you did." I put my arm around Sophie. Then I walked away with my daughter. The medic tried to send us to different hospitals. I refused. "My daughter stays with me." Sophie squeezed my hand. The ambulance smelled like antiseptic and hot vinyl. My ribs protested every time the vehicle hit a seam in the road, but Sophie kept watching my face instead of the road ahead. "You should have jumped," she said quietly. "With what?" "You know what I mean." "No, I don't." "You could have made Mom give hers up." I stared at her. There were things a father should never ask his child to carry. One of them was responsibility for whether her parents survived. "This was not your decision," I said. "But you stayed because of me." "I stayed because I gave you my equipment." "That was my decision." Her eyes dropped. "What Mom did was hers." That distinction mattered. It would matter a lot over the next 6 months. At the emergency department, they confirmed I had 2 cracked ribs, 6 stitches over my left eyebrow, and a bruised shoulder. Sophie had rope burns around one thigh from the hurriedly adjusted harness and a swollen ankle from landing. Nothing permanent. We had been lucky. That word made me angry in a way the pain did not. Rachel arrived while a nurse was taping my ribs. She still wore her jumpsuit. Owen came with her. Of course he did. Sophie saw them through the curtain and went rigid. I stood. The nurse told me not to. I did anyway. Rachel stopped at the foot of the bed. Owen is taking Dylan home. Good. I wanted to check on you both. Sophie laughed once. There was nothing amused in it. Rachel looked at her. Honey. Don't call me that right now. Rachel flinched. Owen cleared his throat. Daniel, I know this looks. I held up one hand. No. He stopped. I said, do not speak to my daughter. Now I'm extending that to me. Rachel stepped between us. You are being unreasonable. I almost smiled. That was the first sign that she had no idea what had just happened. Not in the plane. Between us. I was unreasonable for 14 years. You're going to have to get used to the new version, I said. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means take Owen home. This is not about Owen. Then why is he standing in my hospital room? She looked at him for the first time. She seemed to notice how that looked. Owen said, I'll wait outside. Go home, I said. His jaw tightened, but he left. Rachel waited until the curtain stopped moving. Then she lowered her voice. There will be an incident review. I know. I made a judgment call. I know. Sophie was with you. Dylan had no one up there who could help him. You were there. Her mouth opened. Then closed. I held her gaze. You were there, Rachel. She looked away first. The nurse returned with discharge papers. Rachel tried to help me into my jacket. I moved back. Her hand remained suspended between us. Daniel, everything about today goes in writing from now on. Her face changed. What? If it concerns the aircraft, Dylan's equipment, Sophie's rig, or what happened in that cabin, send it by email or text. You're my husband. Not for much longer. The words came out without force. That was what frightened her. I saw it. She had watched me angry before. She had watched me frustrated, jealous, hurt. She knew how to handle all those versions of me. She did not know what to do with a man who had stopped negotiating. Sophie came out with her ankle wrapped. Rachel stepped toward her. Sophie, please let me drive you home. Sophie looked at me. Dad, we're not going home. Rachel froze. Where are you going? A hotel? This is insane. I picked up the discharge folder. No, the insane part was me thinking I could keep explaining away what you were showing me. She followed us into the corridor. You're injured. Sophie is injured. We should be together tonight. We were together this morning. She stopped walking. I kept going. That night, from a hotel room 15 miles from our house, I emailed the drop zone safety manager, the aircraft operator, and the insurer listed on our jump paperwork. I didn't accuse anyone. I wrote 4 sentences identifying the flight, identifying myself as a passenger, and requesting preservation of all video, audio, equipment checkout records, manifest versions, maintenance records, and communications. Then I copied myself. Sophie sat on the second bed, staring at her phone. Mom texted me 11 times. You don't have to answer. Did she text you? I looked at my screen. 32 messages, 3 missed calls, 1 email. I opened the email. Subject, Incident Statement. Rachel had attached a draft. The first paragraph described an in-flight emergency. The second said Dylan's equipment became unusable. The third made me sit very still. Sophie voluntarily surrendered her parachute system to another jumper after an equipment emergency. I read it twice. Then I turned the laptop toward my daughter. She read the sentence. Her face lost all color. I didn't. I know. She's saying I volunteered. Yes. Why? I already knew the answer. Because if Sophie had volunteered, Rachel had not taken anything. Because if Sophie had volunteered, Rachel had not chosen. I saved the attachment. Then I forwarded the email to a separate archive account I had used for business records for years. Rachel had just given me the first piece of evidence I never wanted. My wife had not only taken my daughter's parachute, she had already begun rewriting who had handed it over. Chapter 2. The story she wanted me to sign. Rachel called at 6 o'clock the next morning. I let it ring. She called again. I let that ring too. Then a text appeared, we need to submit a consistent statement. Not, are you okay? Not, how is Sophie? A consistent statement. I took a screenshot. Sophie was asleep with one foot elevated on a stack of hotel pillows. I moved quietly into the hallway before calling the civilian investigator whose number was on the accident paperwork. Her name was Karen Holt. She didn't ask me what I believed had happened. She asked what I had personally seen. That distinction made me trust her. I told her. The vibration. Ben inspecting Dylan's container. Rachel taking Sophie's rig. My objection. Rachel's exact words. My decision to transfer my own rig to Sophie. The order of the exits. My remaining in the aircraft. I finished with Rachel's draft statement. Do you still have the original email? Karen asked. Yes. Keep it in its original form. Do not modify the attachment. I won't. Do you have any reason to believe the recording systems are at risk? Not now. I made a preservation request yesterday. She paused. You knew to do that quickly. I work in aviation safety systems. That was the first time my profession entered the story. Later, Rachel would tell people I had used my expertise to trap her. The truth was less dramatic. I knew digital records had retention schedules. I knew automated systems could overwrite temporary files. I knew memory changed, so I preserved what existed before anyone had time to improve it. Karen said she would schedule a formal interview. Then she added, do not coordinate your account with other witnesses. I'm not planning to. Good. I nearly laughed. Rachel arrived at 8:30. She came to the hotel. I knew because Sophie looked down from the window. Mom's here. I had expected it. What do you want to do? I don't want to see her. You don't have to. She'll say you're keeping me from her. You're 19. That almost made Sophie smile. Almost. I went downstairs alone. Rachel stood in the lobby wearing jeans and a squadron sweatshirt. Her hair was pulled back. She looked like the woman who used to make pancakes on Sunday mornings. That version of her had always been dangerous to me. It made me remember too much. She stepped forward. Where's Sophie? Upstairs. I need to see her. She doesn't want to see you. Rachel stared at me. You don't get to decide that. I didn't. She looked toward the elevators. I moved into her path. Do not go up there. Her eyes hardened. Daniel, she is an adult. She told me she does not want to see you. Respect it. She is traumatized. Yes. And you are feeding that. My ribs hurt when I laughed. I'm feeding it? You know what I mean. No. Say what you mean. Her shoulders dropped. For years, I had done half of Rachel's conversations for her. I had translated tone, filled gaps, assumed good intentions. Not anymore. She lowered her voice. The plane was failing. Everyone was panicking. Dylan could not jump with his equipment. I knew Sophie had you. There it is again. What? You keep saying she had me as though that made her expendable. I never said expendable. You took the equipment keeping her alive. Because you had one and she had one. Her face tightened again. You had more experience adjusting equipment. I asked why you didn't give Dylan yours. I was trying to manage the exit. Then you should have managed it without taking from our daughter. Her jaw tightened. That was the officer in her. The part that hated losing control of a room. I am not going to stand here and let you judge a 5-second decision made in an aircraft emergency. Then don't. I started to walk away. She caught my sleeve. Pain shot through my shoulder. I looked at her hand. She released me immediately. What are you doing? She asked. Going upstairs. You cannot just walk away from this. I can. What about our marriage? I looked at her. That was the first time she had mentioned it. Not in the field. Not at the hospital. Not in 32 messages. Now, because I was leaving. Email me whatever you need to say about the accident. She stared. So that's it. 14 years and you're going to hide behind email. No. 14 years is why I'm finally using it. She followed me to the elevators. Did you already contact an attorney? The doors opened. I stepped inside. Not yet. She relaxed. It was small, almost invisible, but I saw it. She still thought there was time. I pressed the button. By the end of today, I will. The doors closed. Michael Grant was not a family friend. I chose him because he was not. His office occupied the third floor of a plain brick building near the county courthouse. He listened more than he spoke. I told him about the marriage before I told him about the accident. Rachel had not become somebody else in 1 minute. The minute had simply removed my excuses. I told him I earned slightly more than Rachel most years through my consulting business. Though our incomes fluctuated, we owned the house jointly. Our retirement accounts were separate. We had a joint checking account for household expenses. I covered the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, Sophie's college savings contributions, and most major repairs. Rachel covered utilities and some daily expenses. We had no prenuptial agreement. Sophie was 19, so custody wasn't an issue. Any concern about physical safety? Michael asked. No threats? No. Financial misconduct? I don't know yet. He leaned back. And the affair? I suspect one. Evidence? Not yet. He nodded. Do not go searching illegally. Do not access private accounts that are not yours. Do not move marital money to punish her. Do not destroy anything. I wasn't planning to. Good. The cleanest cases are usually built by people who resist the urge to be dramatic. I almost told him he would have liked me on the plane. Instead, I signed an engagement agreement. Then we discussed temporary separation. I opened an individual checking account for future earnings. I left enough money in the joint account to cover every normal household bill. I didn't drain anything. I didn't cancel insurance. I didn't touch Rachel's pay. I did cancel one automatic transfer $800 every month to an account labeled family support. I had assumed it was money Rachel was sending to help her parents. When I opened the transfer history, I noticed the destination name had changed 8 months earlier. Reed Family Education. I stared at the screen. $800 every month. Owen's last name was Reed. I downloaded the statements. I didn't call Rachel. I didn't confront Owen. I sent the files to Michael. Then I went back to the hotel. Sophie was sitting by the window. Mom emailed me. What did she say? She apologized. That's good. No, not really. She handed me the phone. Rachel had written, I am sorry you felt frightened. I was trying to save everyone. I knew your father was the strongest person on that plane and that he would protect you. I would never intentionally put you at risk. Sophie had typed a response but not sent it. You removed the thing keeping me safe. She erased it, then typed another. Why didn't you give Dylan yours? She erased that too. What should I say? She asked. Whatever is true. What if the truth ruins everything? I sat beside her. The truth didn't create what happened. She looked at me. That sounds like something you'd say in a safety report. Occupational hazard. This time she did smile a little. Her phone buzzed. Another email. Not from Rachel. From Ben Alvarez. He had copied me. Subject, equipment status clarification. Ben wrote that Dylan's rental rig had been marked out of service before boarding because the reserve pin protection and paperwork required additional inspection. Dylan had been removed from the active jump list. He was supposed to ride the aircraft only if the operator approved him as a non-jumping observer. Ben had objected to even that. Then someone changed the manifest. I read the next line twice. Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Mercer personally requested that Dylan remain on the load and stated that she would handle the manifest issue. Sophie read over my shoulder. Mom knew. I didn't answer quickly. There was a difference between knowing a piece of equipment had been flagged and knowing exactly how dangerous it might become during an emergency. She knew there was an unresolved equipment issue and she still put him on the plane. Yes. Sophie looked away. My phone rang. Rachel. I declined it. A text came seconds later. Please do not talk to Ben until I speak to you. I saved it. Then another. Owen says Ben is trying to protect himself. I saved that too. Then a third. Daniel, please. This can destroy careers. I stared at the words. Not families. Careers. That was when I understood what Rachel was actually afraid of. She had not come to the hotel because she thought our marriage was ending. Not really. She had come because she thought I still belonged to the team that cleaned up after her decisions. I typed one reply, I will not coordinate testimony with you. Send any accident-related communication in writing. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, you are acting like I committed a crime. I didn't answer, because I didn't know whether she had. And unlike Rachel, I was no longer interested in deciding the conclusion before the evidence existed. Chapter 3. The house I no longer called home. We went back to the house 48 hours after the crash, not to reconcile, to pack. Michael advised me to document what I took. So I asked my brother Eric to come with us. He didn't know the whole story. I had told him only that Rachel and I were separating and I wanted a neutral witness while I collected personal property. Eric looked at the bruise across my face and said, "You sure you don't want me to ask questions?" "Yes." "That means no." "It means later." He nodded. That was why I had asked him. He knew how to stay out of things until invited. The house looked exactly as we had left it Saturday morning. Sophie's coffee mug sat beside the sink. My running shoes were under the bench. Rachel's flight bag was on the chair. There are moments when a marriage becomes legally complicated long before it stops looking ordinary. I stood in our kitchen and realized how much of my life had been built into small routines. The thermostat schedule. The grocery list on the refrigerator. The maintenance calendar. The charging cable Rachel always forgot beside the coffee machine. None of it looked broken. Rachel was waiting upstairs. She came down when she heard us. Her eyes moved from me to Sophie to Eric. "You brought your brother?" "Yes." "This is our house." "Yes." "We don't need a witness." "I do." Her face hardened. Eric gave her a polite nod. "Rachel." She ignored him. "Daniel, can we speak privately?" "No." Her gaze shifted to Sophie. "Your father is turning this into something ugly." Sophie flinched. I stepped between them. "Do not put her in the middle." "She already is, because you put her there on the plane." Rachel went silent. Eric looked at me. I could feel the question he wanted to ask. He didn't. Rachel folded her arms. "What are you taking?" "My clothes, work equipment, personal records, military documents, a few tools." "Sophie is taking what she wants. You are really moving into a hotel. Temporarily. This is ridiculous." I walked past her. She followed me upstairs. Our bedroom smelled faintly of her perfume. I opened the closet. One side, uniforms. One side, my suits and shirts. 14 years reduced to 2 sections of hangers. Rachel stood in the doorway. "What did Michael Grant tell you?" That caught me. "How do you know who my attorney is?" I saw the consultation charge. Of course. It had posted to the joint account before I changed payment methods. "Nothing you need to worry about. I'm your wife." I think I have a right to worry when my husband hires a divorce attorney. Then worry. Her eyes widened. "You don't mean that." I folded shirts into a suitcase. "Rachel, you need to stop telling me what I mean. You are angry." "Yes." "You were hurt." "Yes." "You're traumatized." "Probably." "And you're making permanent decisions while you're all 3. I zipped the bag. Taking Sophie's parachute was a permanent decision. She is alive. So am I. That does not make what you did acceptable. Rachel stepped closer. "I trusted you." I stared at her. She realized too late how wrong those words sounded. "You trusted me. I knew you could handle the situation. So, your solution was to create my problem. Daniel, you trusted me to take the risk you refused to take." She looked at the floor. There it was. The thing she had been avoiding. I kept packing. She tried again. Owen's son was terrified. Sophie was terrified. He didn't have working equipment because he wasn't supposed to be on that load. She snapped her head up. "Ben told you that. He put it in writing. Ben is protecting the drop zone. Maybe an investigation will determine that. Owen said the red tag was administrative. Owen is not a rigger. He served in aviation operations for 9 years. That doesn't make him a rigger. He understood the risk. Then why did his son need my daughter's equipment?" She had no answer. I opened the small fireproof safe in the closet. Inside were my passport, discharge documents, company formation papers, 2 property records, insurance policies, and a folder containing Sophie's birth certificate and college documents. Rachel watched me take them. You're really doing this? I closed the safe. Yes. Because I made one bad call. No. Then what? I stopped. This was the last explanation I owed her. Because for years, every time you chose work, Owen, his emergencies, your parents, your squadron, or somebody else over us, I found a reason for you. That is not fair. I know. I was unfair to myself. You supported my career. I did. You knew what my job demanded. I did. You cannot rewrite our marriage because of one accident. I'm not rewriting it. I'm finally reading it without editing. She looked like I had struck her. I didn't enjoy that. That surprised me. I had imagined anger would feel powerful. Instead, it felt expensive. I wanted less of it. In the hallway, Sophie was packing books into a box. Rachel came out of the bedroom. Sophie. My daughter kept packing. Sophie, please look at me. She did. Rachel's voice softened. I love you. Sophie's hand stopped. I know. Rachel looked relieved. Then Sophie continued. That's why this is worse. Rachel's relief disappeared. You think I don't? I think you love me when it doesn't cost you something. Rachel went pale. I wanted to protect Sophie from having to say more, but this wasn't my conversation to control. Rachel said, that's cruel. Sophie's eyes filled. No. What you did was cruel. She picked up the box and walked downstairs. Rachel turned to me. You've been talking to her. Yes. I'm her father. You know what I mean. No, I don't. You're letting her believe I chose Dylan because of Owen. I stared at her. Didn't you? No. Then why? Because Dylan had no safe exit option. Neither did Sophie after you removed hers. You were there again. Always. You were there. Daniel will fix it. Daniel will pay. Daniel will reschedule. Daniel will explain. Daniel will take Sophie. Daniel will cover the mortgage. Daniel will understand. Daniel will have another parachute. I picked up the last bag. You need to learn a new sentence. What? Daniel isn't doing that anymore. We carried everything downstairs. Before leaving, I photographed the rooms, not to be sentimental, to document property condition. Rachel watched. This is humiliating. You'll survive. At the front door, she caught my attention. Are you going to tell my command about Owen? I turned. That was the first time either of us had said his name in that context. What is there to tell? Her expression closed. Nothing. Then why are you worried? I'm asking whether you plan to weaponize rumors. I don't have to. What does that mean? Facts are enough. For the first time, genuine fear crossed her face. I walked outside. That afternoon, I reviewed household finances. Not because I wanted to ruin her, because I needed to know what belonged to whom and what obligations I had. I found the $800 monthly transfers. Then 3 hotel charges in Denver on nights Rachel had said she was staying on base during a weather delay. A restaurant bill for $240 outside Colorado Springs. A weekend cabin reservation. 2 charges for Dylan's advanced canopy course. A new helmet. A set of altimeter equipment. Total, a little over $11,000 across 14 months. Not enough to change my life. Enough to change the story. Rachel had told me Owen was struggling financially after his divorce. She had asked if we could help occasionally. I had agreed to $1,000 for an emergency car repair one time. Somewhere along the way, Rachel had converted my consent into an open pipeline. I exported the statements, then stopped the recurring transfer. I left the joint household account alone. I paid the mortgage, insurance, utilities, everything necessary. The only thing I stopped paying for was Owen Reed's life. At 5 o'clock that evening, Rachel called. I answered because Michael had told me I didn't need to block ordinary communication unless it became abusive. What did you do to the transfer? I canceled it. That money is for Dylan's tuition. No. Our daughter's college account is for tuition. Owen is behind after the divorce. That is Owen's problem. I promised we would help. Silence. She corrected herself. I promised I would help. Then use your money. You know our finances are shared. Our household finances are shared. I never agreed to support your assistant's adult son indefinitely. Daniel, this is petty. No. Petty would be canceling your phone. She went quiet. I continued. I am paying every obligation I'm responsible for. I am not funding Owen anymore. You're punishing him because you're jealous. No. Yes, you are. Rachel, I watched you take our daughter's parachute and give it to his son. Jealousy is the least interesting emotion I have left. She inhaled sharply. Then she said, You're going to regret burning everything down. I looked across the hotel room. Sophie was doing homework at the desk. For the first time in years, I was not waiting for Rachel to come home. I'm not burning anything down. I'm just not holding it up anymore. I ended the call. That night, Karen Holt emailed me. The digital manifest audit had been completed. The original manifest showed Dylan as removed from jump status at 8:42 a.m. A revised version at 9:07 put him back on the load. The revision came from the front desk account, but the request attached to the change had been submitted by Rachel. There was another record. At 8:51 a.m., Owen had logged into the Dropzone's customer equipment portal and opened Dylan's inspection note. 9 minutes later, Rachel sent him a text. Karen couldn't provide the message yet, but she told me investigators had preserved it from Rachel's voluntarily provided device. I sat on the edge of the bed. Rachel had known before takeoff that there was a problem. Owen had known too. The crash had not created the danger. It had exposed a shortcut they had already accepted. And for the first time, I wondered how many other shortcuts in our marriage I had mistaken for trust. Chapter 4. The Red Tag. Ben met me at the drop zone 4 days later. The damaged aircraft had been moved into a hangar. Yellow tape surrounded part of the maintenance area. I had no business near the plane, so I stayed away from it. Ben and I sat in a small office overlooking the packing floor. I need you to understand something, he said. I'm listening. I did not clear Dylan to jump. I know. No, I want that clear before we talk about anything else. Okay. He rubbed both hands over his face. Dylan had rented a student-style rig from the center. During pre-flight equipment verification, Ben saw an inconsistency in the reserve packing card and noticed the reserve pin protector wasn't sitting the way he expected. He had no proof the reserve itself was defective. That was important. He had simply refused to certify the rig for use until their senior rigger inspected it. The senior rigger was delayed. So Ben removed Dylan from jump status. Owen got mad, Ben said. Was he here? Yeah. He wasn't jumping. He said his shoulder was bothering him. I hadn't known that. So Dylan was supposed to stay on the ground. Yes. What happened? Owen argued. Then Rachel came over. Ben looked uncomfortable. What did she say? That Dylan had driven 3 hours and it was his only weekend free. She asked if he could at least ride the load. And you said no. Why? Because if an aircraft emergency happens, I don't want a passenger in the back without a usable emergency option. I let that sit between us. Ben exhaled. I got pulled away. The front desk manager came out 5 minutes later and said Rachel had talked to the owner by phone. Dylan could ride as an observer. I wasn't happy. Was he wearing the rig? Yes. Why? Because Owen said if our senior rigger cleared it before takeoff, Dylan could be switched back to jump status. Did that happen? No. So he boarded knowing the equipment was not cleared. Yes. And Rachel knew. Ben hesitated. She knew I had red tagged it. That's different from knowing the reserve would fail. I kept reminding myself not to turn uncertainty into certainty simply because I was angry. What did Owen know? He watched me tag it. I looked through the office window at the empty packing mats. Then when the aircraft had a problem, all 3 of them knew Dylan didn't have cleared equipment. Ben nodded. Yes. And Rachel took Sophie's. Yes. He looked sick. I should never have let him board. That's for your company to deal with. I keep replaying it. So do I. Ben looked at me. How did you stay in the aircraft? I didn't have a better choice. That's not what I asked. I knew. But I had no answer. Some moments are too busy to be brave. You do what is in front of you. Fear arrives afterward. Mine arrived every night around 3 o'clock in the morning. The smell of smoke. The jerk of the harness as I pulled it off. Sophie disappearing through the door. Rachel leaving after Dylan. I had started sleeping with the bathroom light on because waking in total darkness made the cabin come back too quickly. I didn't tell Ben that. Instead, I asked, did the camera capture the whole cabin? It should have. Audio 2. Intercom channel. Maybe cabin audio is rough. Is it preserved? Yes. Your request came in before we pulled power from the aircraft system. That mattered. Ben opened a folder. I'm not supposed to give you investigator copies, but this is my own written statement. I want you to have it. I took it. 4 pages, signed and dated. It described the red tag, the manifest change, Rachel's request, Owen's objection, then the emergency. I read the last section. Lieutenant Colonel Mercer removed a cleared parachute system from Sophie Mercer and instructed Dylan Reed to wear it. Daniel Mercer objected and told Lieutenant Colonel Mercer to use her own equipment. Lieutenant Colonel Mercer declined and stated words to the effect of, Sophie has Daniel. I stopped reading. There is something different about seeing the worst moment of your life converted into 12-point black text. A memory still feels negotiable. A document does not. Thank you, I said. Ben nodded. As I left, a black SUV turned into the parking lot. Rachel. She got out before I reached my car. What are you doing here? Talking to Ben? I asked you not to. You don't get to ask that. Her eyes went to the folder in my hand. What did he give you? His statement. She looked toward the office. Ben is trying to shift liability. Maybe. She blinked. She had expected me to defend him because he supported my version. I didn't need Ben to be perfect. I only needed facts. If Ben made mistakes, he should answer for them. I said, and if I made one, you should answer for it, too. Rachel stared at me. You want me punished? No. Yes, you do. I opened my car door. I want you to stop confusing consequences with punishment. Daniel, my command knows there was a civilian aviation incident. That sounds appropriate. They want a statement because Owen was involved. Also appropriate. You know what they'll make this look like? I closed the car door again. What will they make it look like? She lowered her voice. That I used my position to pressure a civilian operation. Did you? No. Then say that. They'll say Owen and I have an inappropriate relationship. Do you? Her face went completely still. There it was. I had asked not because I needed the answer to leave. I was already leaving. I asked because I wanted to know whether she would lie to my face. Rachel looked past me at the runway. Owen is my executive assistant. That is not an answer. He is going through a difficult divorce. Not an answer. I have supported him. Not an answer. Her eyes flashed. You're enjoying this? No. Then why keep pushing? Because you asked me what the investigation would make it look like. I'm asking whether the appearance is true. She said nothing. I nodded. That's enough. I got in the car. She put one hand on the top of the door before I closed it. Daniel, what do you really want? To end 14 years without even trying counseling? I looked at her. Days earlier, I might have heard hope in that question. Now I heard strategy. If there was no investigation, would you be asking me this today? Her hands slowly dropped. I closed the door. My phone rang before I reached the highway. I received opposing counsel's notice, Michael said. Rachel hired someone. Looks like it. That was fast. So was yours. Fair. He paused. More interesting issue. I reviewed the statements you sent. That recurring payment to Reed Family Education. Did you authorize it? One transfer. Not the recurring ones. Were those payments from joint funds? Yes. Then we document them. We do not accuse her of theft. Understood. And one more thing. What? Your doorbell account. Is it solely in your name? Yes. I installed the system before Rachel deployed 3 years ago. Do you still lawfully have access? Yes. Before you log in, I want to know why. That stopped me. I haven't looked at it. Good. Do not start searching because you want proof of an affair. What if there is proof? If the system covers the exterior of your jointly owned home and you have lawful access, preserving relevant footage may be legitimate. But do not turn yourself into an amateur surveillance operation. I won't. After we hung up, I drove to my office. I told myself I would not open the doorbell history. Then I received a notification, motion at front door. The system had been on my phone for years. I tapped it without thinking. Rachel opened our front door. Owen walked in. He wasn't carrying paperwork. He wasn't wearing a uniform. He was carrying an overnight bag. I watched Rachel close the door behind him. Then, through the glass panel beside the entrance, I saw her put both arms around his neck. He kissed her. I didn't watch longer. I downloaded the clip, saved the timestamp, and sent it to Michael with one sentence. This occurred at the marital residence today. I have lawful access to the exterior doorbell system. Then I turned off motion notifications. I sat alone in my office for almost 10 minutes. I expected fury. Instead, I felt relief. That ashamed me at first. Then I understood. For months, I had been asking myself whether I was jealous, controlling, insecure. Whether Owen really was just the emotionally needy subordinate Rachel said he was. Whether late-night messages were normal. Whether I was becoming the kind of husband I never wanted to be. The video ended the argument inside my head. Rachel was having an affair. I didn't need to confront her. I didn't need to hear why. I didn't need details. My marriage wasn't confused anymore. It was over. Chapter 5. The camera did not love her. The first formal video review happened 11 days after the accident. Karen Holt didn't invite Rachel and me into the same room. I appreciated that. I sat beside Michael in a conference room at the Drop Zone's insurer-appointed investigation office. Karen sat across from us with two technical specialists. The screen on the wall showed the aircraft interior. No music, no dramatic edits, just time. At 10 hours 16 minutes and 3 seconds, the first heart vibration appeared. At 10 hours 16 minutes and 19 seconds, Tom's voice came over the intercom. At 10 hours 16 minutes and 41 seconds, Ben moved to Dylan's equipment. At 10 hours 17 minutes and 6 seconds, Rachel turned toward Sophie. Karen paused the video. Mr. Mercer, I need you to avoid interpreting intent. Just identify people and actions. Understood. She played it. My wife's hands went to Sophie's shoulder straps. My voice came through distorted, but clear enough. Rachel, that's Sophie's rig. Her answer was even clearer. Dylan needs it more. Sophie has you. Michael shifted slightly beside me. He had read the words. Hearing them was different. On screen, Sophie held the front of the harness with both hands. Rachel pulled one strap loose, then the other. There was no version of the footage in which Sophie volunteered. Karen stopped it. Did your daughter say anything before the transfer? No. Did she indicate consent? Not that I saw. Did you? No. Did you tell your wife to give her own system to Mr. Reed? Yes. The video continued. Then give him yours, my recorded voice said. Rachel answered something the first pass couldn't make out. One specialist adjusted audio. They replayed it. I can get him out safely. Then my voice. And Sophie? She has you. I looked away not because I couldn't watch, because I already had. Every night. Karen continued. My hands removed my own rig. I fitted it to Sophie. Then checked it. Dylan exited. Rachel exited. Sophie exited. The door remained open. Then the camera shook violently as Tom descended. Nobody spoke for a moment after the video stopped. Karen clicked off the screen. We will continue technical analysis. Today's purpose was identification. I nodded. She slid a printed document toward Michael. We also compared Ms. Mercer's initial written account. I read the highlighted sentence, Sophie voluntarily surrendered her parachute system. Karen said, the video does not appear to support that characterization. No. Did you help draft Ms. Mercer's statement? No. Did your daughter? No. Did Ms. Mercer ask you to sign it? She emailed it with the message that we needed a consistent statement. Michael produced the original email. Karen added it to the case file. The review lasted 2 hours. When we finished, Rachel was sitting in the lobby. Owen was beside her. Michael saw them and quietly said, Do you want to use another exit? No. I walked straight toward the front door. Rachel stood. Daniel. I stopped. Owen rose too. Michael remained several feet behind me. Rachel looked at him, then at me. You brought your lawyer to an aviation review. Yes. That was unnecessary. I disagree. Her face tightened. What did they show you? The video? Owen looked at Rachel, a quick glance. Small, but I saw it. Was the audio clear? She asked. Clear enough. I said nothing. She stepped closer. I want to explain something before you draw conclusions. I already saw it. That doesn't show what I was thinking. I don't care what you were thinking. Her mouth opened. I continued. For 14 years, I cared what you meant. I cared about context. I cared about pressure. I cared about what you were trying to do. She stared at me. I care what you did. Owen spoke. Daniel, the investigator, is looking at an emergency through hindsight. I turned to him. You were not on the aircraft. No, but Dylan told me. I don't care what Dylan told you. Rachel stepped between us again. You are not going to speak to him like that. There it was. Automatic. She still protected him before she even processed the conversation. I smiled, not because it was funny, because the repetition had become almost mechanical. You keep doing it. Doing what? Choosing. Her face changed. I walked out. That evening, Rachel came to the apartment Sophie and I had rented month to month. I had moved us out of the hotel because I needed a kitchen and Sophie needed somewhere that didn't smell temporary. I didn't invite Rachel inside. We stood outside. She held my wedding ring. I recognized it immediately. I brought this back. Keep it. Her fingers closed around it. Daniel, no. You can't say no before I say anything. I just did. She looked exhausted for the first time. She didn't look like a lieutenant colonel. She looked like a 41-year-old woman standing outside the apartment where her husband had moved without her. I ended things with Owen. I waited. That's all you have to say? What do you want? I thought it mattered. It would have mattered before. It should matter now. Why? Because I'm choosing my family. I leaned against the doorframe. No. You're choosing what's left. Her eyes filled with anger. You think I wanted this? I don't know what you wanted. I wanted both parts of my life to stop pulling against each other. That was the closest thing to honesty she had given me. I nodded. There it is. What? You wanted both. She looked away. I continued. You wanted Owen to need you. You wanted me to stay reliable. You wanted Sophie to adore you. You wanted your career untouched. You wanted every door open. That isn't fair. It's exactly what happened. I made mistakes. You made choices. Everyone says that like there's no difference. There is. Mistakes happen when you don't understand what you're doing. Choices happen when you know there are alternatives. She looked at the ring in her palm. I chose wrong. Yes. And that means I never get another chance? With me? Yes. No. She inhaled sharply. You don't know that. I do. You loved me. I did. Do you still? That question hurt more than I expected. I could have lied. I didn't. Part of me probably does. Hope flashed across her face. I killed it before it grew. But love is not consent to keep being harmed. Her eyes filled. Daniel, please. I stepped inside. Good night, Rachel. She put her hand against the door. One thing. I waited. Do not send the doorbell footage to my command. So she knew. I looked at her. How? You downloaded it. The account notified me that a clip was exported. Fine. Promise me. No. Her face hardened. You said you weren't trying to destroy me. I'm not. Then why keep it? Because it proves the affair. That is private. It is relevant to my divorce. Not to your career. That decision is not yours or mine. She stared at me. If they ask me directly, I am not lying for you. Her voice dropped. You always said you would protect me. I thought of smoke filling the aircraft. Of Sophie's empty shoulders. Of my own harness in my hands. I did. For 14 years. I closed the door. Chapter 6. The Papers. Rachel was served at work on a Thursday. I didn't choose the location. That was the process server. She called me at 11:07. I answered. You filed? Yes. You actually filed? Yes. Her breathing came fast for several seconds. That was all I heard. Withdraw it? No. Daniel, we haven't even tried. I tried for years. Not after the accident. The accident is why I stopped. You are making a decision while you're still angry. I filed after 11 days. That's nothing. It was enough. She lowered her voice. Meet me tonight. No. I'm not asking you to come home. Just meet me. No. Why? Because every conversation becomes you trying to negotiate my reality. That's dramatic. Then email me. I ended the call. 20 minutes later, Owen called. I had never given him permission to use my personal number, though Rachel had probably shared it years earlier. I answered because I wanted to know why. Daniel, Owen. I think we need to talk man-to-man. No. He paused. I know you're angry. No. You know Rachel is getting divorced. This is bigger than the marriage. Then talk to your attorney. I don't need an attorney. That may change. His tone sharpened. Is that a threat? No. Silence. Anything else? You're using the accident to punish Rachel for me. No. She told you we ended it. I don't care. You obviously care about the affair. Yes. About whether you two stay together? No. He seemed genuinely confused. That told me something about him. Men like Owen understood competition. They understood winning someone else's wife. They understood secrecy and possession. What they often didn't understand was a man who refused to compete. So, you're just walking away? He asked. Yes. You expect me to believe that? I don't care what you believe. I hung up. That afternoon, Michael and I reviewed financial disclosure. The numbers weren't dramatic. That made them worse. Rachel hadn't emptied our accounts. She hadn't bought Owen a sports car. She hadn't stolen millions. She had simply redirected pieces of our marriage toward him. $800 a month for Dylan. Meals. Trips. Equipment. A hotel here. A rental car there. Little thefts of agreement. Money I had earned. Money she had earned. Money that belonged to a household where one spouse didn't know it was supporting the other spouse's lover. Michael pointed at the cabin reservation. Do you have evidence she was there with him? Only the doorbell clip before and after that weekend. Then we do not claim what we cannot prove. That sentence became the rule of my life. Do not claim what you cannot prove. It is astonishing how much peace comes from no longer needing to exaggerate. The truth was already enough. Rachel's parents invited me to dinner 2 nights later. I almost declined. Then Sophie said, I want to go. Why? I want Grandma to stop calling me. So we went. Rachel wasn't there. Her mother, Linda, hugged Sophie for too long. Her father, Paul, shook my hand like we were meeting for business. Dinner lasted 12 minutes before Linda started. Rachel is under enormous pressure. I'm sure. She may lose her command track position. That's between Rachel and the Air Force. You know how hard she worked. Yes. You were there for all of it. Yes. Linda stared at me. Then how can you walk away now? Sophie shifted beside me. I answered before she could. Because being there for someone does not obligate you to remain after they betray you. Paul frowned. People make mistakes in emergencies. Agreed. Rachel says Dylan would have died. Rachel had a parachute. Silence. Linda said she had responsibilities as the most experienced jumper. No. Ben was the instructor. She was trying to help. She took Sophie's equipment. Linda looked toward my daughter. Sophie, your mother would never knowingly hurt you. Sophie's fork clicked against her plate. I asked her why she didn't give him hers. Linda went quiet. She still hasn't answered me. Paul leaned back. She knew Daniel would protect you. Sophie looked at him. That is not comforting. He opened his mouth. She continued. It means Mom counted Dad's life as backup equipment. Nobody spoke after that. We left before dessert. In the car, Sophie stared out the window. Was I rude? No. I don't want them to hate her. That isn't your job. I don't want you to hate her either. I don't. She looked at me. I meant it. Hatred would have kept Rachel in the center of my life. I was trying to remove her. 3 days later, the separation became real in another way. The homeowner's insurance renewal notice came to my email. For 14 years, I handled it automatically. I compared rates, reviewed coverage, paid the premium. This time, I forwarded the notice to Rachel. House-related renewal. Please coordinate through counsel regarding payment from joint funds. She called immediately. You've always handled this. I know. So handle it. No, Daniel. It takes you 10 minutes. Then it will take you 10 minutes. That's childish. It's a boundary. You still own the house. I'll pay my agreed share. I'm not your household manager anymore. What am I supposed to do with all this? That sentence almost made me laugh. All this insurance, contractor appointments, tax forms, car registrations, the invisible architecture of our life. Things Rachel hadn't noticed because I had never allowed them to fail. You handle it, I said. I don't have time. Then hire someone. She went silent. I heard the truth before she said it. Owen used to help with some of this. There it was. I asked, is he helping now? No. Why not? He has his own problems. Of course he did. That was Owen's defining quality. His problems always required somebody else. Rachel ended the call without saying goodbye. The next morning, Michael forwarded me a notice. Rachel's command had opened a separate administrative inquiry not into the aircraft accident itself, but into whether her conduct surrounding the civilian activity, her relationship with a subordinate, and her subsequent statements reflected misconduct or compromised professional judgment. I read the notice twice, then closed it. I felt no satisfaction. That surprised me less now. Consequences looked exciting from far away. Up close, they looked like paperwork. Chapter 7. The Jealous Husband. The first version of me that reached our friends was simple. Daniel discovered Rachel was emotionally close to Owen. Daniel became jealous. Daniel overreacted to the accident. Daniel filed for divorce. Daniel was using his aviation background to make the situation worse. I heard it from Eric. Someone from your old neighborhood group called me, he said. Who? Doesn't matter. It does if they have facts. They don't. Then it really doesn't matter. Eric studied me. You've changed. No. I'm tired. You used to care what people thought. I used to think correcting everybody was my responsibility. That weekend, our old friends Mark and Julia invited Sophie and me to a barbecue. I almost said no. Sophie wanted normal food, so we went. Rachel wasn't invited. I didn't know whether that was because Julia believed me or simply wanted to avoid a scene. Halfway through the evening, Mark pulled me aside. I'm not choosing sides. Good. I just want you to know Rachel told some people the footage is misleading. Okay. She says you're obsessed with proving she chose Dylan because she was sleeping with Owen. I'm not. Mark waited. I drank water. Finally, he asked, that's it? That's it. You're not going to tell me your side? There's an investigation. That sounds like something a lawyer told you. It is also something an adult should understand. He looked embarrassed. Fair. A week earlier, I would have explained everything. Now I understood how rumors worked. Each defense created another question. Each answer became material for another conversation. So I stopped. Rachel expected me to fight for the story. Instead, I let the official record do it. Tom Keller gave his statement the following Monday. He called me afterward. I hope you don't mind. Why would I? I told them you stayed because you had given your rig to Sophie. That's what happened. I also told them you argued against taking hers. Yes. They asked whether you blocked Dylan from exiting. I told them no. Thank you. Tom hesitated. They asked whether Rachel appeared panicked. What did you say? I said she looked controlled. That mattered, not because panic would have excused her, but because her later explanation leaned heavily on confusion. Tom had spent 27 years flying. If he said Rachel was controlled, investigators would take that seriously. Sophie's interview happened separately. I drove her there. I didn't go inside. She came out 40 minutes later and sat in the passenger seat without speaking. I waited. Finally, she said, they asked if I volunteered. What did you say? No. Good. They asked if Mom asked permission. What did you say? No. She stared at her hands. They asked what she said. I knew she has you. Sophie nodded. Then she began crying, not loudly. She leaned forward and covered her face. I sat there feeling useless. That is one of the hardest things about being a parent to an adult child. You cannot solve every injury by picking them up. Sometimes all you can do is remain. After several minutes, she said, I hate that sentence. I know. Every time I hear it, it sounds like she loved me less. I turned toward her. Do not let one sentence decide whether your mother ever loved you. She chose him. Yes. That's the same thing. No. She looked at me. What she did was wrong. What she chose was wrong. You are allowed to decide what that means for your relationship with her. But you do not need to rewrite your whole childhood to make today make sense. She wiped her face. Isn't that what you're doing with the marriage? The question hit cleanly. I thought about it. No. Really. I'm looking at patterns I refused to look at before. That's different from saying every good moment was fake. You still think there were good moments? Yes. She looked surprised. Your mother was there when you broke your wrist in 7th grade. She slept in that hospital chair all night. She taught you to drive. She cried harder than I did at your graduation. Sophie stared out the windshield. Then how did she do this? I don't know. That was the most honest thing I could give her. I don't know. 2 days later, Karen called. We found an anomaly in the equipment record. What kind? A post-incident edit. I sat up. What was changed? I can't discuss all details yet, but the note associated with Mr. Reed's rental equipment was modified after the aircraft landed. By who? A pause. An account associated with Owen Reed. I closed my eyes. What changed? The original note said the rig was removed from service pending inspection. The later note characterized it as an administrative documentation hold. That wasn't a minor wording difference. One said unsafe to use until cleared. The other suggested paperwork. Was the original deleted? No. Of course it wasn't. That was the thing people misunderstood about modern systems. Deleting what users could see didn't mean deleting what the system remembered. I knew that because my company had built audit functions for maintenance software. Not this exact product, but the principle was the same. Do you need anything from me? Not now. Okay. Mr. Mercer. Yes. Please do not contact Mr. Reed about this. I won't. I hung up. Then I laughed once, not because it was funny, because Owen had done exactly what Rachel accused me of doing. He had assumed technical records were just text, something that could be rewritten. He hadn't understood the record beneath the record. That evening, Rachel called. I heard Karen spoke to you. Who told you? She spoke to me, too. Okay. Owen says he corrected the description because Ben wrote it badly. Okay. That's all? What do you want me to say? You understand these systems? Yes. Can timestamps be wrong? Anything can malfunction. Daniel. What? I'm asking you professionally. I knew where she was going. If somebody edited a record after an incident, can a synchronization problem make it look like the edit happened later than it did? Possibly. Depending on system architecture. She exhaled. Then I continued. But version history, authentication logs, device metadata, server time, and backup records would usually help determine that. Silence. You didn't have to add that. Yes, I did. Would you tell the investigators the system could be wrong? If they ask whether it is theoretically possible? Yes. Hope entered her voice. Thank you. If they ask whether there is evidence it was wrong here? I'll say I have not seen any. The hope disappeared. You could help me. No. One sentence from you could create reasonable doubt. This is not a courtroom. You know what I mean. I do. Then why won't you? I looked at Sophie's empty chair across the kitchen table. Because for 14 years, Rachel had turned my competence into a marital resource. My ability to solve problems, explain systems, read contracts, repair things, smooth conflict. She believed that skills still belonged to her. It's your turn to live without my cover, I said. Then I ended the call. Chapter 8. The Record Beneath the Record. The audit meeting took place in a windowless conference room. I attended only because the software vendor had requested an independent explanation of version control behavior from someone familiar with similar aviation systems. I disclosed my conflict immediately. My wife is a subject of the related incident review. The vendor representative nodded. We know. We are not asking you to interpret user intent or determine misconduct. We only need a technical explanation of audit trails. That was work I understood. For 2 hours, I explained nothing about Rachel, nothing about Owen, nothing about Sophie. I explained servers, authentication, versioning, timestamps, why a visible record could change while the historical record remained intact. When I finished, Karen asked one question. If a user opens a record at 3:14 p.m., changes text at 3:19, and the server stores the change at 3:19, is there any reason the system would normally display that as a pre-incident entry from 8:48 a.m.? No. Could a clock error cause it? Not with the server logs you showed me. Those are synchronized against the same host. Thank you. That was it. I didn't accuse Owen. The system didn't need my anger. After the meeting, Rachel waited near the elevator. She had become thinner. I noticed because I had spent 17 years noticing her. Old habits survive longer than relationships. You testified against him. No. You explained the system. Yes. You knew what that would do. I told the truth. You could have said you had a conflict and refused. I could have. Why didn't you? Because they asked me a technical question I could answer. She shook her head. This is revenge. Then it's remarkably boring revenge. Don't act like you're above this. I'm not above anything. You want to see him fall? I considered it. No. She stared. I want him away from my life. You're destroying his career. He edited an aviation safety record after an accident. He corrected wording. Then the review will find that. You don't believe him. No. She looked toward the elevator doors. He says Ben is trying to blame him. Maybe Ben is protecting himself. She turned back sharply. You believe that? I believe people protect themselves. Including you. Yes. That answer disarmed her. I continued. The difference is I'm not asking anybody to lie. The elevator arrived. She didn't move. I need to tell you something. I know about the affair. Her face drained. What? I have the doorbell video. She closed her eyes for a moment. The hallway was quiet except for the elevator chime. How much did you see? Enough. It wasn't. Stop. She did. I do not want details. I don't want a timeline. I don't want to know where you went. I don't want to know what you told him about me. You deserve an explanation. No. Her eyes filled. That's not fair. To who? To me. I almost laughed. Rachel had reached a stage I had seen in accident investigations before. The moment when a person finally wanted to explain, not because the facts had changed, but because they had lost control of what the facts meant. I loved you, she said. I believe you. She blinked. You do? Yes. Then how can you act like none of it mattered? It mattered. Then why won't you let me explain? Because loving me did not stop you. Her mouth trembled. I stepped into the elevator. She followed. We rode down together. At the lobby, she said, Owen never asked me to leave you. That does not help. I never planned to. That helps less. Why? Because it means you intended to keep me indefinitely while sleeping with him. She had no response. Outside, the afternoon heat reflected off parked cars. Rachel walked beside me. His divorce was ugly. I don't care. He felt like he was losing his son. I don't care. He needed someone. I needed someone too. She stopped. I didn't. Daniel. I turned. Her face changed when she saw mine. Not angry. Not pleading. Just finished. She whispered, When did I lose you? The plane? No. Before that. I thought about it. Maybe there had been cracks. Maybe Owen. Maybe the money. Maybe all the evenings I ate alone. But losing is different from damaging. You hadn't, I said. That hurt her more. I was still there. I walked away. That evening, Michael sent me a settlement proposal from Rachel's attorney. She offered to sell the house and divide the equity, keep retirement accounts separate, split joint savings, no claim against my company, reasonable division of furniture and vehicles. It wasn't aggressive. Then I reached the last section, mutual non-disparagement. Standard enough, but attached was an additional requested statement. The parties agree that the aviation incident was the result of an emergency. Decision made under extreme conditions and that neither party alleges intentional endangerment. I called Michael. No. I assumed. I'll accept the property terms if they are fair. Not that. Good. She thinks the divorce is a negotiation over the accident. Probably. It isn't. Then we make that clear. The next morning, Karen sent notice that investigators had recovered a text exchange before boarding. Rachel to Owen, bring Dylan. I'll handle the manifest. Owen, Ben red tag the rig. Rachel, he can ride. We'll figure it out. Owen, you're a lifesaver. Rachel, you owe me. I read the exchange 3 times. Then one more message sent after the crash. Owen, we need to make clear the rig issue was paperwork. Rachel, I know. Daniel is already asking for footage. Owen, can you control him? Rachel, I'll handle him. I sat very still. There are insults you can forgive. There are betrayals you can survive. Then there are sentences that reveal the architecture of a relationship. Can you control him? I'll handle him. For years, I had believed Rachel trusted me. Maybe she had. But somewhere along the way, trust had become predictability. She believed she knew exactly how much I would tolerate, exactly how much I would absorb, exactly how long I would stay. She hadn't expected the plane to change me. The truth was simpler. The plane didn't change me. It showed me the cost of remaining the same. Chapter 9. The bill she never saw. By the 3rd month of separation, Rachel had stopped calling every day. She called when something broke. The water heater. The property tax installment. The service schedule on her SUV. The home security renewal. At first, I answered out of habit. Then I learned, send it to your attorney. Daniel, this isn't legal. It's a household expense. You know the contractor. So do you. His number is on the invoice. You always handle this. I don't anymore. You're making everything difficult on purpose. No. You're experiencing the difficulty I used to remove. She hated that answer. Mostly because it was true. The financial disclosures made the imbalance visible. Rachel earned a good salary. She wasn't helpless. But money had never been the whole story. Time was. I had coordinated movers through 3 assignments. I had handled taxes after deployments. I had taken Sophie to appointments. I had negotiated the roof replacement. I had waited through 4-hour maintenance windows. I had moved client meetings because Rachel's schedule changed. I had built my company around flexibility because somebody had to. Rachel's career had grown inside a structure she barely noticed. I was that structure. Once I stepped out, nothing collapsed dramatically. It simply became harder. That was more realistic and in its own way, more devastating. One afternoon, she came to my office without warning. My receptionist called upstairs. Your wife is here. Ex-wife soon. Do you want me to send her up? I considered saying no. Then I remembered the hearing was 3 weeks away. 5 minutes. Rachel entered carrying a folder. She looked around. It had been years since she visited my office. You changed the reception area. 2 years ago. Her expression shifted. Oh. That single word summarized a lot. She sat across from me. I got the financial statements. Yes. I didn't realize how much of the mortgage you paid. I did. Or Sophie's college account. I know. I thought we split things more evenly. We did what worked. You never complained. No. That isn't fair. I raised an eyebrow. To either of us. If you felt taken for granted, you should have said something. I did. Every time I asked you to come home for dinner. Every time I asked Owen not to call after 10 o'clock unless it was work. Every time I told you Sophie noticed you missing things. You never said you were at the point of leaving. Because I wasn't. She stared at me. The same truth hurt her. I hadn't spent years planning escape. I had stayed because I believed the marriage could still be repaired. Then came the moment when it could not. Rachel looked at the folder. I spoke to Owen. I said nothing. He says he changed the equipment note because the original wording implied the rig had failed inspection. It was red-tagged pending inspection. He says that's not the same as unsafe. Then he can explain that. He's being removed from my office. That sounds like a command decision. He thinks I abandoned him. The irony was so complete I almost smiled. Did you? I told him I can't protect him. Good. Her eyes narrowed. You think this is funny? No. He says everything happened because I insisted Dylan come. I waited. Rachel looked down. Maybe he's right. There was the beginning of accountability. Not enough, but something. I wanted him there, she said. Owen was going through hell. Dylan had barely spoken to him for months. They started reconnecting through skydiving. I thought if Dylan had a good day, it would help Owen. So you pressured the drop zone. I asked for flexibility. After the equipment was tagged. Yes. And when the emergency happened? Her eyes filled. I saw Dylan panic. And I knew his rig wasn't cleared. And I looked at Sophie. Her voice broke. For once, I didn't rescue her from the sentence. She had to finish it. I knew you would never let anything happen to her. I leaned back. That still isn't an answer. She wiped under one eye. I know. Why didn't you give Dylan yours? Silence. It lasted almost a minute. Then she whispered, I was afraid. Finally. The truth. Not leadership. Not managing the exit. Not experience. Fear. I was afraid that if I gave mine up, I would be trapped. I nodded. So you trapped me. Her eyes closed. Yes. The words sat between us. No excuses. No technical language. Yes. I had imagined that admission many times. I thought it would release something. It didn't. It simply confirmed the decision I had already made. Rachel leaned forward. I am sorry. I believe you. I mean it. I believe that too. She looked confused. Then why does it sound like it changes nothing? Because it changes nothing. She began crying. I waited. I didn't touch her. That was hard. My body remembered comforting my wife, even after my mind had stopped considering her one. She said, I destroyed our family. No. Her head lifted. You made choices. Sophie made her choice about how much contact she wants. I made mine about the marriage. That sounds colder. It's more accurate. She looked around my office. Is this really your life now? Work? That apartment? Sophie at school? No family dinners? No house for now? Are you happy? I thought about it. No. She looked almost relieved. I'm peaceful. The relief disappeared. That difference mattered. Happiness came and went. Peace was new. Before leaving, Rachel placed a key on my desk. The house key. What's this? I'm moving into base housing temporarily. Why? The house is too much. I looked at the key. For years, that house had been proof of success. Now neither of us wanted it. We'll list it? I said. She nodded. At the door, she stopped. Daniel? Yes. If I had given Dylan my rig, would we still be married? I looked at her. I don't know. She nodded slowly. That was the truth. Maybe the affair would still have ended us. Maybe the money. Maybe the lies. But I wouldn't rewrite the future to punish her. She opened the door. Then my phone rang. Karen, I answered after Rachel left. The safety review date is set, she said. When? October 9th. Okay. All principal witnesses will be invited. The video and record audit will be entered. Understood. One more thing. Yes. Mr. Reed's post-incident edits have been referred separately. To who? The appropriate authorities for his employment and the Operators Council. That part is outside our scope. Good. Different systems. Different consequences. Nobody owned the whole process. That was how it should be. I looked through my office window. Rachel crossed the parking lot alone. For years, I had run after her. That day, I let her keep walking. Chapter 10. The minute everyone finally saw. The review room held 18 people. No audience. No reporters. No dramatic public spectacle. That would have been easier. Humiliation is sharper in a quiet room where every person understands exactly what the evidence means. I sat with Michael. Rachel sat across the aisle with counsel. Owen sat farther back. Ben and Tom waited near the wall. Sophie had been invited but chose not to attend. I already lived it, she told me. I respected that. Karen began with a timeline. 8:34 a.m. Dylan Reed checked out rental equipment. 8:42 Ben Alvarez marked the equipment out of service, pending inspection. 8:51 Owen Reed accessed the equipment record. 8:53 Dylan was removed from active jump status. 8:57 Rachel texted Owen, bring Dylan. I'll handle the manifest. 9:07 Dylan was added to the load as an observer. 10:02 aircraft departed. 10:16 mechanical emergency began. No adjectives. No accusations. Just time. Then the video played. I kept my eyes on the screen, not Rachel. I had watched it enough that the movements felt familiar. The hard shake. Ben grabbing Dylan's rig. Sophie looking at her mother. Rachel's hands on the straps. My voice, that's Sophie's rig. Then Rachel, Dylan needs it more. Sophie has you. Somebody behind me shifted. The video continued. Then give him yours. I can get him out safely. And Sophie? She has you. The words sounded worse in the room than they had in my memory because nobody could pretend anymore. Karen stopped the footage immediately after Sophie exited. We are not evaluating the subsequent aircraft landing in this section, she said. That is addressed in the mechanical report. Then Ben testified. He admitted his own mistakes. I should have prevented Dylan from boarding. Rachel's attorney asked, was his rig confirmed defective? No. So it may have functioned. Yes. Then Lieutenant Colonel Mercer was acting with incomplete information. Ben nodded. Yes. Her attorney looked relieved. Then Ben added, but I had explicitly prohibited use because it had not been cleared. The relief vanished. Tom spoke next. He described Rachel as controlled. He confirmed I had objected. He confirmed I didn't interfere with Dylan's exit. He confirmed I transferred my own cleared rig to Sophie. Then the audit specialist presented the record changes. Original equipment note. Post-incident revision. Owen's login. Server timestamp. Backup record. Owen's attorney objected to characterizing the change as falsification. Karen didn't argue. She simply said, the board will characterize it in its findings. That was worse. Rachel testified last. I hadn't heard her complete statement before. She looked directly at the panel, not at me. I knew Dylan's equipment had not been cleared. I believed there was an immediate need to get people out of the aircraft. I removed Sophie's system and gave it to Dylan because I believed Daniel would ensure Sophie had a safe exit. One reviewer asked, why did you not transfer your own system? Rachel went still. For weeks, she had avoided that question. Now there was nowhere to put it. I was afraid. The reviewer waited. Rachel continued. I was afraid of being left without one. Another reviewer asked, did you understand that transferring Sophie's system could leave Mr. Mercer without one? Yes. Did he object? Yes. Did your initial statement say Sophie voluntarily surrendered her system? Yes. Was that accurate? Rachel's eyes lowered. No. Why did you write it? She looked toward Owen only once, then back. I wanted to reduce the appearance that I had made the decision for her. There it was. Not confusion. Not bad wording. Intent. The room seemed to contract. The reviewer asked, did Mr. Reed help you prepare that statement? Rachel swallowed. We discussed the incident. Did he suggest describing the equipment issue as administrative? Yes. Owen sat forward. His lawyer touched his arm. Rachel continued, I should not have agreed. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not because she had admitted it, because for the first time, I was no longer the only person refusing to carry the truth for her. The civilian review took no position on Rachel's marriage. It didn't need to. Its findings were narrower. Dylan should not have been on the aircraft without cleared emergency equipment. The operator's manifest procedures had failed. Ben had made an incomplete decision by allowing the situation to continue after his objection. Rachel had interfered with normal safety boundaries during the emergency. She had transferred another jumper's cleared equipment without that jumper's consent. Her initial written description was inconsistent with the recorded event. Owen's post-incident edits were referred separately. Everybody owned their part. Even Ben. That mattered to me. I had never wanted a story where Rachel was the only person wrong and I was the flawless hero. I had been wrong too. I had spent years tolerating patterns because confrontation was inconvenient. I had taught Rachel that I would absorb the cost. That didn't cause her choices, but it explained why she believed I always would. Afterward, Rachel's separate command inquiry moved quickly. I was interviewed once. The officer asked whether I had evidence of a relationship between Rachel and Owen. I provided the doorbell clip through Michael. Nothing more. I didn't speculate. I didn't hand over private messages I didn't lawfully possess. I answered questions. Then I left. 3 weeks later, Rachel called. Her voice sounded empty. I was removed from the deputy position. I sat on the balcony of my apartment. I'm sorry. She laughed bitterly. No, you're not. I am. You expect me to believe that? Yes. Why? Because losing your career path does not give me anything. Silence. I'm being moved to a staff assignment while the administrative action finishes. Okay. Owen is out of the executive office. Okay. He says I ruined his career. I looked out at traffic below. What do you think? I think he changed that record. Then let him own it. He says he did it for me. Did you ask him? No. Then he owns it. She was silent again. Daniel. Yes. Was there ever a point when you would have stopped this? There it was. The accusation hiding inside the question. You mean the reviews? Yes. No. You could have. No. You had influence. I had information. You know what I mean. Yes. And no. Her breath shook. You could have protected me. The sentence brought me back to the plane. The smoke. Her hands on Sophie's rig. I closed my eyes. I did. She said nothing. For 14 years, Rachel. My voice stayed level. I protected your schedule, your career, your image with Sophie, your relationship with my family, your finances when things got messy. I defended you when people said you were never home. I explained you until I could explain you to myself. She started crying. I continued. That was the problem. She whispered, Daniel. I protected you so well. You thought consequences were something that happened to other people. I ended the call. I didn't feel victorious. I felt done. Chapter 11. Her last condition. The divorce mediation lasted 6 hours. The first 5 were about property. The house sold for less than Rachel hoped and more than I expected. We split the net equity according to the agreement our attorneys negotiated. Each kept our own retirement accounts. I kept my company. Rachel kept her vehicle. I kept mine. Joint savings were divided. The disputed expenditures related to Owen were accounted for in the settlement, but I didn't demand every dollar back. Michael asked me twice if I was sure. I'm sure. You have leverage. I don't want leverage. I want a signed agreement. That was the cost I chose. Freedom mattered more than extracting the maximum possible financial penalty. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Rachel asked to speak directly. The mediator looked at us both. Attorneys agreed. Rachel folded her hands on the table. I will accept the financial terms. I waited. There is one thing I want. Michael leaned slightly toward me. I didn't look at him. What? A statement? No, you haven't heard it. I know it. Her face tightened. I want language saying the incident was an emergency judgment error, not intentional endangerment. No. I am not asking you to say I did nothing wrong. No. It would help me professionally. No. Her attorney said, "Mr. Mercer, this does not require you to retract any factual testimony." Michael answered before I could. "My client is not negotiating public facts as part of a property settlement." Rachel looked at me. "Please." For months, that word might have moved me. "Not now. I'll give up my claim to the dining furniture." She stared at me. "What? And the vacation account? You can take 60%. Daniel, stop. You want concessions? We can discuss concessions. I don't want money. I know. I want you to help me fix some of what happened." "I can't." "You can." "No, Rachel. I can help you avoid part of the consequence. That is not the same as fixing what happened." Her eyes filled. "I admitted I was wrong. Yes. I ended things with Owen. Yes. I lost my position. Yes. I apologized to Sophie. Yes. What else do you want?" The room went silent. That was the problem. She still believed consequences were payments. Lose enough and the debt should be cleared. "I don't want anything." Her expression collapsed. "I want out." She looked down. After a moment, she said, "I signed up for counseling." "Good. I thought maybe you could come." "No. Once. No. To understand each other." "I understand enough. You don't know why I became close to Owen." "I don't need to. That's convenient." "Yes." She looked at me sharply. I continued. "It is convenient. That is what divorce is going to give me. The right to stop investigating why you hurt me." Tears ran down her face. "I was lonely. I waited. You were always with Sophie or working. You had your company. She needed you more. I felt like I was disappearing from my own family. That hurt because some of it might have been true. I didn't dismiss it. I'm sorry you felt that way." She stared at me. "That's all? What do you want me to say? That you understand?" "I understand loneliness." "Then. It does not make Owen my fault." She closed her mouth. "I could have been a better husband," I said. "You could have asked for counseling. You could have demanded change. You could have left me." Her shoulders shook. "You did not get permission to betray me because you were unhappy." She covered her face. The mediator looked uncomfortable. "Good. Divorce should be uncomfortable." Rachel lowered her hands. "If Owen disappeared tomorrow, would you come home?" "No." The answer came before she finished breathing. She stared at me. "If the investigation disappeared?" "No." "If I got my position back?" "No." "If Sophie forgave me?" "No." Her lips parted. For the first time, she understood. Every possible repair she had imagined was built around removing obstacles. Owen. The investigation. My anger. Sophie's distance. She had never considered that the marriage itself had become the thing I no longer wanted. "I thought you were doing all this so I would wake up," she whispered. "I did want you to wake up." Hope flickered. "So you would stop blaming me for leaving?" The hope died. I slid the agreement across the table. "I'm not coming home." Rachel looked at the signature line. She didn't touch the pen. "What happens after this to us?" "After this? We stop being married." "You make it sound easy." "It isn't." "Then why do you look so calm?" "Because difficult and wrong are not the same thing." She cried quietly for another minute. Then she signed. Rachel Mercer. The signature I had seen on mortgage papers, school forms, deployment documents, birthday cards. Now at the bottom of our marriage. The mediator slid the pages toward me. I signed. Daniel Mercer. No shaking hand. No dramatic pause. Just ink. Outside the building, Rachel followed me to the sidewalk. "Daniel." I stopped. She held out my wedding ring again. "I don't want it." "Neither do I." "Then throw it away." "I can't." I looked at the small band in her palm. 14 years. A symbol doesn't become worthless because the thing it represented ended. It simply stops being current. "Give it to Sophie someday, if she wants it," I said. Rachel looked horrified. "Why would she want this?" "Maybe she won't." I started walking. She called after me. "I did love you." I turned. "I know. That was the cruelest truth." She had loved me and still done all of it. Love did not erase choice. It never had. Chapter 12. I left with her. The divorce became final in December. No courtroom fight. No dramatic verdict. A judge reviewed the agreement, confirmed both of us understood it, and signed the order. 14 years ended in less than 20 minutes. Outside the courthouse, Rachel stood beneath a stone column. I could see she wanted to speak. She didn't. That was progress. I nodded once. She nodded back. Then we walked in opposite directions. Sophie finished her semester 2 days later. I rented a small house 20 minutes from her university. Not because she needed me living beside her, she definitely didn't. But after the accident, she admitted she wasn't ready to be several hours away from the only parent she currently trusted. I didn't use that against Rachel. I never asked Sophie to choose me. That would have repeated the exact harm I was angry about. Rachel and Sophie started meeting with a family therapist separately. Sometimes Sophie saw her mother. Sometimes she canceled. I never asked what they discussed. When Rachel texted me asking how Sophie was doing, I answered basic health or emergency questions and nothing more. Sophie wasn't a report I owed my former wife. Owen's administrative case ended quietly. He lost the executive assistant assignment. His record modification was formally documented as improper interference with a safety-related record. He remained employed but was moved out of the position that had given him direct access to Rachel. His advancement stalled. No prison. No spectacular destruction. Just the kind of consequence people actually hate: a permanent question attached to a professional reputation. Dylan received a suspension from the drop zone. Several months later, Sophie got a letter. She brought it to my house. From Dylan. You want me to read it? No. She sat at the kitchen counter. He apologized. That's something. He says he knew the rig was mine. I waited. He says he was scared. I believe that. He says he should have refused. Probably. She looked at me. Do I have to forgive him? No. Would you? It isn't my parachute he took. She thought about that, then folded the letter. I'm keeping it. Okay. Not because I forgive him. You don't need a reason. My company changed too. For years, I had refused large projects requiring travel because Rachel's schedule already made our family unstable. In January, a regional operator asked me to lead a 6-month safety modernization project across 3 states. My first instinct was to decline. Then I realized the reason no longer existed. I accepted, not to prove anything, not to become rich, not because a successful career was revenge. I accepted because my calendar belonged to me again. That was different. The biggest change came in small moments. I stopped checking whether Rachel's flight schedule had changed. Stopped leaving one side of the garage clear. Stopped buying the brand of coffee only she drank. Stopped sleeping with my phone volume at maximum because she might need me after a late landing. Stopped carrying the invisible expectation that somebody else's crisis automatically became mine. For the first time in years, silence felt like a room instead of an absence. In March, I had to fly to San Antonio for work. Sophie came because she had spring break and wanted free hotel breakfast. We were walking through the terminal when she slowed. Dad. I followed her eyes. Rachel stood near a gate in uniform. No command insignia associated with her former role. She carried a laptop bag. For a second, all 3 of us froze. Rachel looked at Sophie first, then me. She walked over carefully. Hi, Sophie said. Hi, Mom. That was more than Rachel had received 6 months earlier. She seemed to know it. How are you? Okay. How's school? Hard. Rachel smiled faintly. It was always going to be. Sophie nodded. Then Rachel looked at me. Work? Yes. I heard your company got the regional contract. I wondered who had told her. Probably Linda. Yeah. Congratulations. Thank you. There was no anger between us. That didn't mean there was a path back. People confuse peace with reconciliation because they're uncomfortable with endings. But some of the healthiest endings are quiet. Rachel shifted her bag. I'm headed to Dayton. Safe flight? She nodded. Sophie looked at the departure board. Our flight is boarding. Rachel's expression changed. Fear not of losing us in one dramatic moment. She already had. This was the slower realization that life kept happening without her at the center of mine. She turned to Sophie. Can I hug you? Sophie hesitated, then nodded. Rachel hugged her, not tightly. She let Sophie decide when it ended. That mattered. When they separated, Rachel looked at me. She didn't ask. I was grateful. Daniel. Rachel. I've been thinking about what you said. I waited. About the emergency not creating my choice. I had said versions of it before. She continued. I kept telling myself the plane changed everything. Did it? No. She shook her head. It exposed everything. I didn't answer. She looked at Sophie. I had spent years assuming you would both adjust around me. There was no defense. No request. I'm sorry. Sophie looked down. I know. Rachel's eyes met mine. Are you happy? The same question she had asked in my office. This time, the answer had changed. Yes. Pain crossed her face, but she nodded. I'm glad. I believe she meant it. The boarding announcement sounded. Sophie touched my arm. We should go. I picked up my bag. Rachel stepped aside. For one irrational second, I remembered another departure. An open aircraft door. Wind. Smoke. Rachel fastening Sophie's rig around Dylan. My hands stripping off my own equipment. Her words, Sophie has you. The sentence had haunted me for months. Then, standing in that airport, I finally heard it differently. Sophie did have me. Not because her mother was entitled to risk my life. Not because I was born to absorb every consequence. Not because protecting people meant accepting whatever they did. She had me because I chose to be her father. And I had myself again. That mattered too. Rachel said, "Goodbye, Daniel." I looked at the woman I had once expected to grow old beside. I didn't hate her. I didn't forgive everything. I didn't need either emotion to leave. Goodbye, Rachel. Sophie and I walked toward the gate. Rachel didn't follow. Months after the crash, Tom had sent me a photograph of the damaged jump aircraft after repairs. The caption said, "Back in the air." I had kept it. Not because I loved the airplane, because repair didn't mean unchanged. Sometimes a structure takes damage, passes inspection, and returns to service. Sometimes damage reveals that a structure should never carry the same load again. My marriage belonged to the second category. Rachel had once believed my leaving was revenge. Owen thought it was jealousy. Her parents thought it was trauma. Some friends thought I would calm down. They were all wrong. I wasn't punishing Rachel. I was ending my participation. That was the part she had never imagined. She thought because I loved her, I would fight Owen. I didn't. She thought because we had 14 years together, I would bargain. I didn't. She thought because Sophie needed both parents, I would return to a home where neither of us felt safe. I didn't. I documented what happened. I stopped paying for what wasn't mine. I let professionals handle the investigation. I signed the papers. I accepted that leaving cost me a house, friends, money, years of memories, and the future I had expected. Then I left anyway. That was the lesson I wish I had understood earlier. A boundary is not revenge. A consequence is not cruelty. And walking away doesn't mean the other person never mattered. Sometimes it means they mattered so much that you finally understood exactly what staying was costing you. Sophie handed the gate agent her boarding pass. Then she turned around. Rachel was still standing in the terminal behind us. Sophie lifted one hand. Rachel lifted hers. Then my daughter walked through the gate. I followed. I didn't take my daughter away from her mother. I took us away from the place where we had both been treated as expendable.